We've been reporting this morning one of Britain's most notorious criminals, Ronnie Biggs, has died. Tonight, a BBC drama tells the story of the great train robbery. Biggs was part of the gang which escaped with £2.5 million from a mail train in 1963. He was jailed for 30 years for his part in the robbery, but escaped from prison after just 13 months and spent decades on the run.
Well, tonight's programme follows the story of the heist through the eyes of the gang and also the eyes of the police officers who brought some of them to justice. The mastermind of the plot, Bruce Reynolds, is played by Luke Evans, and he's here now.
Hello.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
And the figure on whom your character, or who you play, died not long after you took the project on.
Yeah, Bruce Reynolds. I think they announced it, and within about 3 weeks, it wasn't even that long. He sadly died. Yeah.
So you didn't get the chance to meet him and talk about the events?
I didn't meet any of them.
No.
Obviously, you know, it was. All of them have biographies or autobiographies, and Bruce had one that he had updated as well, which I read, and it was a reference for me. But no, never got to meet Bruce or anybody else.
But you would have done a fair amount of research, but
well, there is. It happened 50 years ago, and it was highly publicised, as you know. So there was a huge amount to refer to, and as well, because it was 50 years ago, there are an enormous amount of contrasting stories about what happened, how it happened, who was involved, who wasn't involved, who was framed. You know, so it's a fascinating story to research. There's well, we're still talking about it 50 years later.
Let's take a look at you in the film. Here we go.
No one's thought of knocking it off before now.
They didn't have the Ulsterman, did they?
How many coppers?
That's the beauty. None. No transport police, no security guards.
Kidding me, nobody. Yeah, now he's getting the glint. What, nobody at all?
It's Her Majesty's mail, mate. Nobody'd have the nerve. That's how they all see it.
Even without police, still 75 men on board.
Only 5 on the HVP coach.
Yeah, but the other 70 aren't going to just sit there twiddling their thumbs while we have it away with these notes. We fix it so that they don't notice, Charlie.
Well, won't notice. All they've got to do is look out the window.
No, Gordon's right. We can sort that.
Don't say you're on the hook.
Big dreams, Chaz. Oh, you got fancy it, haven't you? The post office? One in the eye for all the old duffers running this country.
What, is that what you think this is about?
It's about getting the life you want. No, not want, deserve. Setting yourself up for good. House where you like, private schools for your girls. And more fruit and veg at 5 in the morning.
You'd never have to look a potato in the eye again, mate.
And, I mean, you know, it's extraordinary timing. And as we've been reporting the death of Ronnie Biggs this morning, we get, you know, lots and lots of people getting in touch with us to say, you know, he wasn't a lovable rogue. You know, these characters weren't sort of rebels, they were criminals. And this was, a very brutal crime which left one man, you know, scarred for life. So it must be interesting for you trying to interpret this as an actor, sort of, you know, on the face of it, a media crime with a certain amount of reputation around it.
Absolutely.
But of course, with a huge responsibility to tell a difficult story as well.
It is a difficult story, and you're right. It was a crime, and that's what we have to remember.
Yeah.
And I think what the writer Chris Chibnall has done extremely well is absolutely not veer away from the seriousness of what they were doing, and there were violent moments in their history, and we start with the Boat crime, which left a lot of injuries. They did use a lot of koshes and things like that. So we don't glamorize it. We use as much of the factual evidence that we have and give a sort of an unbiased portrayal of the event that we know, because like I said, there are so many contrasting stories. You have to be very careful of what you know is fact and what is just a story that all we know is from what they weren't.
And from being in criminal terms sort of very well executed,
well, it was until a certain point. That was the thing, yeah.
Well, and then they made a mistake, but it sort of cursed everybody who's involved with it, almost.
Absolutely.
Apart from the 2 or 3 who got away with it.
Yeah.
But an interesting moment in the film where they tell your character how much they've actually got, and you say it's too much.
Yeah, and he's the only one, if you notice, that sees the reality of the situation. And in today's money, it's £44.5 million. That's
so why was it too much?
Well, to launder that amount of money, to get rid of that and make it clean, was impossible. They were burying it in gardens, they were putting it in walls of their caravan, anywhere they could put it, they were just stashing it and carrying ridiculous amounts of money in their pockets. And so when they were caught, which almost all of them were, they had money stuffed everywhere. It was a huge amount. I mean, in our terms, between how many other robbers it was, trying to get away with. You can't put it in a bank account. You'd have to hide it, So it's a fascinating thing. But he knew straight away, and Bruce was very famous in the team because he liked to plan everything meticulously. He was a very well kept man. He looked fantastic, but his planning was, to the dot. And when it went awry, he couldn't really. He got a bit confused and left. He couldn't get involved with that then because he had it all down to a T. And when the money was counted, he realised it was more than $1 million, which is what they thought it was going to be. He straight away thought, well, how are we going to get rid of this? And he was right.
You've been a very busy man.
I have.
And a number of people at the weekend may have been to see another film that you are in at the moment, the second part.
Yes.
People find it extraordinary that The Hobbit has been split into 3 parts because it is the smaller of the legendary books.
Yes.
But you're in the second part of The Hobbit. How do we pronounce Smaug? Is it Smaug?
Smaug.
It is Smaug, the desolation of Smaug.
Very good.
And you are Bard the Bowman.
I am.
Should we have a quick look at you?
Oh, well, let's do. Yeah.
Let's do that.
If you awaken that beast,
It will destroy us all.
you can listen to this naysayer, but I promise you this. If we succeed, all will share in the wealth of the mountain. You will have enough gold to rebuild Escaroth 10 times over!
Great taking part in things like, because you get to make dramatic pauses.
Oh yes, well we are in Middle Earth. Pauses are, they mean a lot in Middle Earth, and it's 2 hours 40, so there must have been a lot of dramatic pauses. No, it was great, and Bard is one of the only human characters that Tolkien wrote about in the Hobbit. So it was very, very special, and 18 months of my life in New Zealand and playing with such great actors and working with Peter Jackson, it was really special. It has come out incredibly well. I'm very, very happy with it.
Is Martin Freeman good fun?
He's fabulous.
Is he?
He is Bilbo. He is Bilbo Baggins. You probably hate me for saying that, but he is. He's wonderful.
But you are Bard the Bowman.
I am, and don't forget it.
Luke, thanks very much. You can see Luke in BBC's great train robbery dramatisation, BBC One tonight, and tomorrow at 8 p.m. it's in 2 parts. The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug is in cinemas now.